certain people, and I've seen that as, of course, even in my own teaching, certain people really are not powered by this approach of metronome, tuner, tape recorder
Exactly.
as the trinity of their, you know, musical um, um, guidance.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
they're actually missing a whole power structure, empowering
Yeah.
of themselves. And that's something I wanted to ask about. What about that musician who really actually, that's a prison, those three things?
Right. Well, first of all, that person has to understand that they can't use their musical desire and fervor as an excuse to not do those
Yeah,
basics.
right.
And a number of times I've heard that, but I'm connecting and I'm being in musical, and that might work in some genres, but it's not going to work in classical music, okay? And when it's being used as an excuse, that just doesn't cut it. Then go play in another genre, get another kind of way of expressing yourself. Um, because I try to make it, I always talk about technique as a living thing and how you integrate that into the other music making, and how that then fosters you're being better able to, because your assembly is so developed to give expression to what you want to express, because you can do so much more technically. Especially if you're doing it in a living way, and that's a whole other subject. What is technique as a living thing? What do I mean
Right.
by technique as a living thing? But the person, what you're talking about is there are those individuals who, if they try to go the route, now some people are excellent at going the route of becoming an audition making machine, and they don't actually, I was trying to say, they don't actually lose themselves,
Right.
because they don't have themselves invested in the music in that way.
Exactly.
They don't need the music. They enjoy the music, but they are not so identified with it that they can't find the fuller part of their life outside the orchestra. They have all these other things they do. They love cooking, they love sailing, they love all these other kinds of things. They might, be into doing charities. They might have many aspects of their life, and of course, any musician could, but that they compartmentalize and they go, okay, I'm in the job, this is what they pay me to do. I love the music, I love hearing it, and and this is the way I play it, according to this formula or this technical way, and maybe they have their moments that something else happens, but they're perfectly content with that. That's totally fine.
Right.
And they don't lose themselves in it because they were never inhabited it in the first place.
Right.
But there are those others who, unless they're from the beginning, in a way, music was their voice, was their way of communicating. And in some people, I've seen a number of them who that is really where they're free. When they're playing, that's really where they are themselves. More so than the other parts of the world, even though they might be really smart or they might be very talented in other ways. But when they play,
Right.
that's when they're really themselves. And that's why for that person to compromise that, not only are they doing themselves a great disservice, and those who might hear them, because when you are in that place and you can really play, others know it, and you give them something that you can say things that they wish they could say, but they can't, but you can, and when they hear it, they know you said it, and they feel like you satisfied it for them too. That's a really powerful performer audience experience.
Right.
But if that person who plays that way, that music is where their self, they actually bring themselves to the music,
Right.
and if they take that out, if they extract that, saying no, but I have to do this, and I have to do that, and I have to do this, then that person ends up, like you use the word, not being empowered. They can't actually, it doesn't happen. It doesn't come
They
together.
cut off
Not
something
only
from
do they cut
themselves.
off something from themselves, though, what I'm trying to say is they can't compete with the ones who are
Right.
technical machines.
No.
Because they're not that kind of person. And so they end up just sounding flat and like nothing. Whereas the one who is a really good technical machine, they have no contradiction about that. They have their life somewhere else. They go in there and that, wow, wow, and you go, that's the one. If you're going to get a machine, you're going to go for that guy or that girl. You're not going to go for the one who's thinking I got to be that way, but I'm not. And then you're nothing. You're nobody. You're going nowhere. It's just not happening. It's just lifeless. In even that way,
Exactly.
There's different ways to
Yeah.
talk about life. So, that's why from the first video we did, I was saying it's important for you to identify who you are and which way you want to go, and whether or not the way you've chosen resonates with who and what you are.
Right.
Because that's the biggest distinction, isn't it? To do what you want to do and see yourself in it and know that is resonant with the person that you actually are, because it gets really complicated if that's not the case. So if I don't know if that answers your question about losing your power source.
It does. And from what you've seen, wouldn't you say that someone actually would even do better on the audition circuit if they accepted the musical aspect
Yes.
of themselves?
Absolutely.
And using the word that you always use, inhabit that space
Yes.
instead of trying to do one that is absolutely not them at all.
Right, absolutely. And that's why I said at the very beginning, don't think you can just kind of, think of yourself as the creative artist and that's an excuse not to do the technical aspect. Ideally, embracing technique as a living thing, and that's a separate subject to try to explain that. But definitely give yourself the training and build a technique and the assembly that you need, but do that within the context and under the government of why you want to do it, what the expression is you're wanting to have happen, and then integrate that. And that's when we talk about the 3O voice. Integrate that into the process of what you're doing. Give that voice. And in fact, the person who that's their personality and that's what they resonate with, and if they do that, they will actually be much more accurate. They will be the most accurate that kind of person can be in that situation. Being that. They'll be, because everything comes together and they are accurate. It's when they try to oh no, I got to be accurate, I got to do this and I got to do that, they're neither.
Right.
They're kind of neither. They're not here nor there. Okay, so, and could the other kind of person who maybe started off another way but wanted to be more musical, can they evolve into that? Sure they can, if they want it enough in their own way, in the way that actually reflects who they are and what they are. But this is already 16 minutes and 6 seconds, and I think it's time to stop this one.